Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. What you're about to see is the video version of the Tech Guy show. We edit it down so you don't get 4 hours of video. This is what I would say is the best of the show from Saturday and Sunday, January 29th and 30th, 2011. You're seeing parts of episode 739 and 740. Enjoy. Well, a good day to you. Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy, and it's time to talk tech. Are you ready? Are you ready? This is the show where we talk about computers, sure. Not that many people want to talk about computers anymore. We also talk about the internet. That's a good subject. Cell phones, oh, really good subject. Camcorders, MP3 players, home theater, all of that stuff. Phone number 1-888-827-5536. But I'll tell you what, it might be easier to remember, 8888. Ask Leo. That's my number if you want to talk about this. Are you following? I know you are. Everybody is. You're following what's happening in Egypt right now. And there is a tech angle to this that I think is kind of interesting. Of course, one of the fascinating things about this is that, as has happened before in Tunisia, in Iran, it's been happening since 10 years ago in the Philippines. People use technology to rally, to organize, to create protests in the streets. In the Philippines 10 years ago, they used text messages. In Iran and Tunisia, they used text messages, but they also used Twitter and Facebook. Apparently, Facebook heavily used in Egypt to get those street protests going. I find that fascinating. And apparently, the Egyptian government finds it not so fascinating. They immediately, as the protests began, blocked Twitter and Facebook, realized then that they couldn't really block it very effectively. People were using proxies to get around. They started blocking text messages pretty early on. And finally, on Thursday, they turned off the internet. This is a graph, for those of you with vivid imaginations listening at home, a graph of internet traffic to and from Egypt on Thursday at 5:25 Eastern Time. Traffic to and from Egypt across 80 internet service providers fell off a cliff. You're talking at its peak about 2.5, almost 3 megabits per second coming into and going out of Egypt. That's actually not a whole lot. I have about 3 times that coming into the studio right now. And I remember being in Egypt a couple of years ago, and the internet wasn't great. You know, Egypt, like much of the Middle East, is connected with really only one cable, undersea cable, coming through the Mediterranean to Alexandria. That was my understanding anyway. So there's not a lot of traffic anyway. But at 5:20 p.m., they reprogrammed the BGP, the Border Gateway Protocol, and the routers, and the big routers that the Egyptian... Now, of course, remember, the Egyptian government is essentially a totalitarian government, controls all the companies, the telecoms, and the ISPs in Egypt. Many of the telecoms are actually Europe. I think all of them are European-owned and run, but they still control them. They flip a switch, they reprogram the BGP routers, and the internet traffic drops from 3 megabits to practically 0. I don't know. That little traffic, that's probably the government using, the internet to monitor the outside, but no citizen can get online. In my experience, I don't think this has ever happened before. I think this is the first time any country has said, we're pulling the plug on the internet. The internet is so dangerous to the survival of our regime. Don't you love that? It's so dangerous to the survival of our regime that we're pulling the plug on it. Kind of an amazing thing. There are a couple of lessons to be learned. First of all, Malcolm Gladwell. He wrote those great books, The Tipping Point, Outliers. He's a really clever, smart fella. Wrote an article in the New Yorker a few months ago saying that Twitter can't be used for revolution. Twitter can't change anything. He said Twitter is very effective for preserving the status quo, but you can't really use Twitter. It wasn't really used in Iran to organize protests. And that's true. I mean, most of the tweets on Twitter during the Green Revolution in Iran were in Farsi. Were not in Farsi, the native language of Iran, but were in English, written by people mostly in the U.S. So he makes that point. Another great thinker, Clay Shirky, is a professor of media in New York, debated with him about this in The Atlantic this month, said, no, the Twitter and social media, social networks like Facebook and Twitter absolutely can change the world. Well, I think you've seen the proof here. Clay Shirky was right. Malcolm Gladwell was wrong. When a government disconnects itself from the outside world like that, it does it for one reason, because the internet is being used effectively by those who are protesting the government. I mean, you couldn't get a more stark proof that, in fact, Twitter and Facebook do change things. They can change the world. They are fundamentally democratizing. They are fundamentally a threat to any totalitarian regime. I think that's clear. Now, I want to point out one thing. There are those in the U.S. government who have been proposing an internet kill switch for the U.S. Members of Congress who have been lobbying for this. I don't think there is a bill yet. Well, I'm sorry, I take it back. There is. There was legislation introduced last summer. Of course, that was the previous Congress, so I don't know if it's been reintroduced in the current Congress, for an internet kill switch in the United States. Joseph Lieberman and Susan Collins, who's from Maine. Lieberman, an independent from Connecticut. Collins, a Republican from Maine. Introduced this legislation. They say they will bring it back in the new Congress. It's not the bill for the internet kill switch. It's called the Protecting Cyberspace as a National Asset Act. Whoa, that's a good thing, right? Cyberspace. It is a national asset. The proposal calls for the Department of Homeland Security to establish and maintain a list of systems or assets that constitute critical cyber infrastructure. The president would be able to control those systems. He or she would have the ability to turn them off, not subject to judicial review, not subject to a vote in Congress, but just because he or she wanted to. Think that's a good idea? I don't think so. And I don't even understand how and in what possible way you could say this will protect us. Turning off the internet doesn't protect the people. Turning off the internet protects the powers that be. In Iran, in Tunisia, and now in Egypt. Now, Egypt, it's interesting. Egypt didn't have high penetration of the internet. As I said, they didn't have a lot of bandwidth. Only 25% of the population has internet access. 20 million users in Egypt. There are 55 million cell phone users. But they shut those down too. Technology, I think it's very clear. I'm sorry, Malcolm, but I think it's very clear. Technology is democratizing. Technology can be used by people to influence, maybe even overthrow their governments. According to PC Magazine, there are only 4 internet service providers in Egypt: Telecom Egypt, Raya, Link Egypt, and a Telesat Mysr. Oh, and Internet Egypt. All 4 of them, boom, gone. In other words, those 20 million internet users in Egypt, you pull up a site, 404. Site doesn't exist. There is no such site. There is no such thing as Facebook or Twitter. No. So I just, if Joe Lieberman and Susan Collins come back and say, hey, we need an internet kill switch. I'm sorry, the Protecting Cyberspace as a National Assets Act. What are you going to say? What are you going to do? I think the message is clear. I find it fascinating. You can almost see it as a test tube, because no country's ever cut itself off from the world in this way, at least to our knowledge. I mean, I guess North Korea doesn't have the most free-flowing information. China certainly has never been reluctant to cut off bits and pieces of the internet, but even China's never cut off the whole internet. Even North Korea's never cut off the whole internet like this. Just pulled the plug on the internet. You know, life goes on, of course, without the internet. But what it does is it disconnects you from the global community. It isolates you. It turns you into a walled nation. And I think that's probably not a good thing. I cannot think why Joe Lieberman thinks we need an internet kill switch. I'm trying to think of what's the scenario. There's a virus gone wild on the internet, and so the president pushes the big red button that shuts it down. I can't think of a scenario that makes any sense. By the way, I will correct myself. I was giving you the wrong amount of traffic. I didn't read the legend right on the graph that I was looking at. Almost peaking at 3 gigabits per second in Egypt, and then from 3 gigabits to nothing. I was saying megabits. It's gigabits. Don't ever want to say mega when you mean giga. Steve in Lake Elsinore, California, our first call of the day. Hey, Steve, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hello, thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you. I just recently signed up for Verizon's Fios, and I got their internet and cable package, and I have wired stuff downstairs, and I have wired stuff I need to use upstairs in my office. So I was thinking, is it possible to piggyback 2 routers on top of each other? I have another Belkin wireless router and
yes.
my Fios router.
What you want to do is something called a WDS, or wireless distribution system. But it's a little tricky to do with just kind of random routers. It's best to, most router companies sell what they call a repeater or a range extender, but it's essentially the same thing. It is another router, but it has a matching chipset. It just WDS works better on it. For instance, I use WDS with an Airport Extreme and Airport Expresses, both made by Apple, and then you put an Express, halfway to the next place, have the Express grab the signal from the Extreme and then pass it along. So you can double and triple and continually extend it. It's totally doable, very easy. If, most of the time what you'll do is put that second router in a bridge mode. You could try it with the ones you've got and see if it works. Put it in a bridge mode, which means it receives and then passes it on. But you have to have software that you can say to it, you're a WDS router now. You're not a NAT router. You're a WDS router. But if they're the same brand, usually that's pretty easy to do.
Okay.
So, try it with what you got, and if it doesn't work, then go out and get what they call is a range extender. It's really just another router by the same manufacturer. You could, if you Google WDS on the internet, you'll see a lot of articles about it, which chipsets work together. So it doesn't have to be Belkin and Belkin or Linksys and Linksys. It really is chipset and chipset. So it's an Arthros chipset or whatever it is, so they match, right? Bonnie, Los Angeles, Leo Laporte, the tech guy listening on the great KFI. Hi, Bonnie. Oh, you're listening to the radio. Oh, maybe it's Sonny, not Bonnie. Maybe that's the problem. Hi, Sonny. No. I hear myself. Whenever I hear myself, I think that's not a good sign. Tom in San Diego, you're next. Hey, Tom, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Good morning, Leo.
Hey, Tom.
I am sitting in the parking lot of Fry's, and I have a question for the Yoda of the internet.
Saturday means Friday.
There you go.
I love it. There's not, when Fry's used to be a grocery store. I think in '85 or '86 in San Jose, it was a grocery store, and I think it was Jim Fry, the guy who owned it, said, "I think computers are going to be big. Let's turn it into a superstore for electronics." And it was just nirvana for nerds, nerdvana. We would just go there and just look around, and go, ooh, it's fun, isn't it?
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm 55. I'm still learning about technology. My kid calls me a tech tard.
Hey, if you're hanging in the Fry's parking lot, you are not.
Well, thank you very much. I'll tell him that. Anyway, the thing. I actually am starting my own company, and what I'm looking for is a presentation tool. You know, I'm going to go into small businesses, and I want to be able to, you know, utilize, since I, you know, need all the wow factor I can get. I was thinking about using either a tablet PC or an iPad. You know, just something I can go in and then just, you know, have a program where I can basically do like a PowerPoint or something.
Yeah, so, and I've used iPads at given presentations. It's really kind of cool. It's a little more limited, but so what you do is you have an iPad. You'll have to buy two things. You'll have to buy, well, Keynote. There's a number of presentation programs, but I would recommend Keynote, which is Apple's own. That's $10. And then you'll have to buy the little dongle that goes on the iPad that takes the 30-pin connector on it, has an iPod connector on it, and turns it into VGA video. And that'll go to a PowerPoint projector.
Well, no, I'm going to actually just use the iPad.
I see. You're not going to project it. You're just going to sit next to somebody and show it.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, so the truth is, a tablet is great for that. The iPad is great for that. The tablet, if you're really used to using Windows and you know how to use PowerPoint really well, is a good choice. But, of course, it's a lot more than you need if what you're mainly doing is presentations. An iPad is great for presentations. It's touch. It's very easy. Once you get the content in there, it's very easy to manipulate it, and you slide it along to the next page and so forth. So I think an iPad, even as a dedicated presentation tool, is a good choice. It's just maybe not quite as powerful as a PC. It's a little hard to get the content in and things like that.
That's the key word that you're talking about right there, is the content. You know, there's four Windows computers in my house, and how hard is it to transfer stuff from Windows?
Yeah, it's hard. You use iTunes. It's hard. I would just say get a Dell or HP. A lot of companies, the Lenovo's are gorgeous tablet. In fact, what I would get is a convertible. So it looks like a laptop, and you work on it as a laptop with a keyboard, and then when you want to do the presentation, you twist the screen around and fold it back, and now it's turned into a tablet. And you'll have a stylus. Unfortunately, these Windows machines are not usually true touch. They're usually resistive, not capacitive screens. So you use a stylus, and actually, I've seen people give presentations with tablets. It's a great way to do it. And because it's a laptop, it's very easy to create the presentation with PowerPoint, to suck data out of the other Windows machines and so forth. So I think that's a good way to go.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. Thanks for calling. Yeah, Dell makes them. Lenovo makes really nice, thin, light ones. I would get a convertible because it's nice to have a keyboard when you need it. It's really nice to have a keyboard. But I think if you wander into that Fry's, you'll be seeing a lot of different kinds. And I think it is more flexible than an iPad. If you have a Mac and you're going to, I've done this. You make a keynote presentation on the Mac, you export it to the iPad, and then it's a really great way to deliver. Think of it as a little delivery tool. I should correct myself, because while a lot of the touch screens, the tablets require styluses, they're probably, I'm sure there are capacitance now, touch screens on laptops that you don't need a stylus. The truth is, I think if you're using Windows, you probably do want a stylus, only because you need the precise control that a stylus gives you compared to the very unprecise control that at least my big fat fingers give me. So the iPad is really designed around big fat fingers, so buttons are big. They don't expect very high resolution fine controls. But when you're using an operating system not designed for touch like Windows, a stylus is absolutely critical, because basically you're using it as a mouse. Pros and cons to that. Pros and cons to that, but something to be aware of. And that's why the iPad succeeded, I think, where Windows 7 or Windows Vista or Windows XP, or I suppose there were even Windows 98 tablets, did not. Microsoft's been pushing tablets for more than 10 years. And they've found a niche market in factory floors and doctors and specialty markets, but not done well in general. The iPad's easily sold more units than all the touch computers from Microsoft combined over 10 years. I'm almost certain of that. But if you want Windows, that's how you have to do it. Steve, Huntington Beach, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, I need some assistance here. My wife has kind of been bugging me for a new MacBook, and I don't speak Mac, so.
Je parle Mac très bien. Faites-en prie. No, that's not Mac. That's French. What is she? Well, first of all, she speaks Mac, I would guess, because she wants a Mac.
Yeah, she has one now, but it's a few years old. So basically, I was looking at possibly a MacBook Pro online, but one of the things that I ran into was I found a website that said that possibly that the MacBooks were coming near the end of a product cycle. Does that make sense?
Yeah. There have been rumors that the MacBooks would be updated. They were updated 8 months ago, something like that. So it could, with Apple, you never know. Could be any day now, could be not. They just did the new MacBook Airs. They will not update those soon. If she really wants a true lightweight, I am a huge MacBook Air fan. I think, in some ways, this is what a computer ought to be. Super light, very fast, surprisingly. And it turns out it's fast not because of the Core 2 processor. It doesn't have a very fast processor. It doesn't even have very much RAM in it. But because it is using a solid-state drive. And that really speeds it up. Unfortunately, it also means you don't have a lot of storage. But I think of a MacBook Air as kind of a cloud computer, So that's one choice. Does she want fast and light? Does she want powerful and big? Does she want a big screen? Has she said anything about what she wants?
Right now, I think she's looking at possibly a 15-inch screen.
Okay.
And the problem that she's having right now with her MacBook is that it kind of starts to freeze or pause on her on occasion.
How old is it?
I believe it's 3 or 4 years old, probably 4 years old.
Before you spend a lot of money, and these are not cheap, they're at least $2,000. Before you spend a lot of money, I would get the discs that came with it, and I would rebuild. I'd format that drive and rebuild it, and just to make sure that it's not just a software problem.
Okay.
Because it could just be, freezing very commonly is a hard drive sector that's bad, and so it's going, I can't read that, now I can read it. I can't read it, now I can read it. And so that would actually give you this kind of stuttering periodically.
That's kind of what's been happening.
So I would format the drive, really format it and start over with re-put all the software on it. If that doesn't fix it, then I would look at a new drive. I mean, look, I'm just trying to save you money. If she wants a new computer, I think Valentine's Day is 2 weeks away.
Right. She's got a birthday coming up 3 days after Valentine's Day.
Now, the truth is, I know how this is. I do it too. Oh, this computer is broken. I need a new one. The problem is nowadays, computers, even a few years old, are so fast. There's no real, like, oh man, this thing, I need to get the latest because this is so slow. No, so you have to come up with, well, there's something wrong with it, because that's the only way to get a new one. The new ones are nicer, they're faster, they have more memory, they have much better video, they have bigger hard drives. You're looking at probably a 15-inch with a 0.5 terabyte hard drive. That's nice. There's a lot of things to appreciate, but it's expensive. The new 15 inches get 8 or 9 hour battery life. In fact, that's the one of the big differences between that and hers. She's only getting 2 or 3 hours.
Right. And she's doing more stuff with iLife. We got a
oh, that's great.
Video camera and stuff like that because we just had a new baby.
Oh, so, that's so sweet. Oh, you owe her something. If not a diamond ring, you owe her a MacBook Pro. You owe her something. So I think these 15 inches are nice. Yeah, they'll probably be updated. I can't tell you when. They do have the latest Intel chips, so an update really isn't going to make a huge difference. The 15 inches are coming with an i5, or if you upgrade an i7, they're coming with fast drives. An upgrade to this might improve the video card, but these are pretty good video cards. I don't think you're going to, it'll be a slipstream upgrade if they do it. And, there's no way of knowing that that's not going to happen unless you wait until exactly when the new one comes out and buy it.
Okay. And
we don't know when that'll be. Now, you could try to kind of refuel the existing one, get a new hard drive if you need it. You know what would be a great gift is a 24 or 27-inch display. The new laptops are great with the big displays because You keep the laptop closed. You get the Apple Cinema display. It has the power connector, a USB connector, and a video connector. It's almost like docking it. You plug those three in with the laptop closed, and the screen comes to life. You can have a standalone keyboard and mouse. Now it's a desktop, a very powerful desktop.
Okay.
So that's another thing you might want to take a look at.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve. You got two gifts. One for the birthday, one for Valentine's Day, and then give her a diamond for the baby. She's earned it, believe me. Let's see. Gail, Costa Mesa, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Gail.
Hey, Leo. How's it going?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. So she told me to cut to the chase, so here's the chase.
Rebecca's great. You're talking about Rebecca Baker, our fabulous call screener.
Very sweet. She just said, start talking. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, just start talk. It's common advice on talk shows. The only problem is that Leo is such a gabber that I always get in the way. So go ahead. Cut to the chase.
I'll start gabbing. Okay. Here's my problem. I've got, and every single day I'm receiving an inordinate amount of spam all of a sudden. This morning, I'm doing it as I'm sitting here talking on the phone with you, blocking it. I have to, cut and paste, block it, save changes, go back to the email. This morning I had 35 spam emails in my spam, and then I had like 10 of them in my regular inbox from my email.
Okay, so let me ask a couple of questions.
Okay.
How long have you had this email address?
Forever.
Okay, so you just started getting it, which means probably that somehow, and I can think of 1,000 ways this could happen.
I can tell you one thing. You want me to tell you one thing?
Yeah.
I think it might be.
Yeah.
First of all, none of the topics of what the emails have to do anything with the email address. Like it'll say, right now I had a Verizon. It went in my spam. It said Verizon, but the email address had nothing to do with that. It was something about cooking, culinary thing.
Yeah, never does.
Okay. Well, what happened was, I think this was my mistake that I might have done. Usually when you try to unsubscribe for something, all you do is you click unsubscribe and they unsubscribe you.
Could be. They ask for your email address. It could exactly be that. But it could also be somebody send you, you got maybe 4 or 5 electronic greeting cards on Christmas, and one of them sold your address. But the point is, your address is out there. Let me tell you what you can do about it when we come back. We'll fight your spam. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Believe it or not, Gail says, I'm getting too much spam. Now, a couple other questions. What email program do you use, Gail? Outlook? Yahoo, okay. Oh, that's interesting. So you're using the web interface to Yahoo Mail.
Okay.
Is that what you're doing? You're doing it in the browser?
Yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, it's been my experience that Yahoo and Gmail have really gotten much better at fighting spam.
Yeah.
In fact, that's probably why you didn't see a lot of spam until now. So something maybe has broken in the Yahoo settings or something.
Well, yeah, that's what I wondered. I went in to check the settings, but there's nothing really that is applicable, like just get rid of spam or whatever, so I don't know what I could do.
I'm seeing a number of people in our chat room saying, yeah, Yahoo's had a problem of late.
Oh.
So it may merely be that Yahoo's anti-spam filtering is not as good. Now, just to give you an idea, when you said 35 spam messages a day, I kind of giggled. Because just to give you an idea, I get I have a external service called MailRoute that gets it. It's a whole different thing because I run my own server, my own mail server and everything. But MailRoute, 97% of my mail is spam. 97%, which is well over 100,000 spam messages a month. So it's about 3,000 a day. 3,000, so 100 times more than you're getting. So when you said 35, I thought, oh wow, that's not too bad. The problem is it shouldn't be getting through at all. I don't see those. Yeah. I don't see those 3,000 a day either, because I have anti-spam filtering. One good, to be honest, good thing to do would be to switch to Google Mail, Gmail.
Okay.
I know you're attached to your @yahoo.com address. Probably all your friends know that address.
Well, it's not even so much my friends. That I'm not concerned about. But I'm trying to find a job, so I have like 1 million emails or resumes out there with this address on it. Is there a way that it could like be forwarded to my? I think I do have a Gmail account too.
Ah, And I bet you don't see nearly as much spam on there.
Well, because I don't use it.
Even if you start using it, it's a much more effective anti-spam. So I would suggest, my suggestion is, yes, you can have Gmail get your Yahoo mail. Do you have a Yahoo paid Yahoo Mail account?
Do I have a what?
You have a paid account at Yahoo Mail?
No.
Okay.
I will if I need to.
Yeah, you will. It's not expensive. I think it's $20 a year. But when you do that, it becomes possible to collect the Yahoo Mail with Gmail. So you use Gmail. You can still have people mail to the same @yahoo.com address.
Right.
But Gmail will every 10 minutes go out and get that mail and process it through their spam filters. And I bet you anything that will improve it. It's certainly something to try.
Oh, awesome! So I just need to do that to upgrade my Yahoo, and then I can get that.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. East Coast Girl says you don't have to buy the Yahoo Pro. Okay. So try it first. So what you need with Yahoo Mail is a way to do what's called pop mail with Yahoo Mail. I thought you had to pay for the Yahoo Mail Pro. Maybe they've changed their rules on that.
Well, I'll check it out.
Yeah, Gmail. If you go to Google and you look on how you can get pop mail accounts, it'll explain. It'll even tell you how to get Yahoo into Gmail. So then you have Gmail collect your mail from Yahoo. You don't even have to look at Yahoo anymore. It's kind of nice.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and then you look at one account. You can have it because it knows where it's getting it. You can have it go into a separate folder or what you can do whatever you want. But it's my experience that the Google's mail spam anti-spam filtering is much better.
Well, that I shall do, Mr. Laporte.
Thank you, Ms. Gale.
Thank you, dear. Have a good day.
I appreciate it. You too. Yeah, I think this is the best way to do it. Now, I'm sure at some point. These filters come and get better, and sometimes they get worse. Maybe at some point you'll get more spam. You're never going to get rid of all the spam. One of the problems with getting rid of all the spam is if a spam filter is too aggressive, it also gets rid of the good stuff sometimes. That's called a false positive. You don't want a false positive. A message from mom gets eaten. That's not good. Or worse, a message from the boss gets eaten. That's not good. So sometimes what they do is they err on the side of forgiveness, just in case. Well, good day to you, Leo Laporte here, the tech guy, and we were talking about computers and the internet and cell phones and camcorders and MP3 players and home theater and all that stuff. Anything with a chip in it. The wonderful, wonderful world of your digital life. My phone number, 888-827-5536. 8888. Ask Leo. If you have a question, a comment, a suggestion, I'd love to hear from you. So, a study done on North Carolina drivers, but I would guess that this would apply nationwide. In 2009, December 2009, a little more than a year ago, North Carolina, like many states, passed a law banning texting while driving. And the Associated Press reviewed the year's worth of court records to see who's doing it. The fine, by the way, is $100 in North Carolina, and plus court costs. And most of the motorists ticketed under the ban. Now, remember, maybe the police are looking more for it with a certain group or whatever. I mean, this isn't a great statistical measure, but most of the motorists ticketed are actually over the age of 25, not younger. You'd think, right? Kids, right? Mm-mm. And actually, some of them were over 60. This is not intuitive. Men account for a slight majority. The average age of those ticketed while texting is 28. More than half were at least 26. And 8 of the, about 1,200 people who were ticketed, 8 of them were over 60. The Associated Press talked to one of them, Priscilla Blake of Rock Hill, South Carolina. She was 67 when she was pulled over last year after dropping her niece off at university in Wilmington. She says she doesn't usually text while driving, but wasn't feeling well after dropping off her niece, so she tried sending off a note to her niece. She said she didn't know about the law, but when she was pulled over, she readily admitted that, yes, I'm texting. It is very, I mean, I don't have to tell you this. It is very dangerous. And I admit, okay, yes, I have done it. In fact, when I first got a BlackBerry, I'm not talking about the phone. I got a BlackBerry pager, with the keyboard. I can remember holding the steering wheel. There's a way there's the BlackBerry grip. I shouldn't probably teach you this, should I? The BlackBerry grip. You put your hands, if the hands like a 10 and 2, but through the steering wheel, and then so you're kind of steering with your thumbs. You're typing on the BlackBerry. And the handy thing about this, you're actually looking at the screen, but you kind of see the road too. I've seen people do the BlackBerry grip. Don't do the BlackBerry grip. You will die, or get a ticket. But isn't that interesting? It's not. You'd think it'd be, it's the kids. No. Mostly not. Mostly people over 26 texting while driving. Stop it. Stop it. Don't do it anymore. Now, Dean asked me in the chat room, is speaking text into your phone while you're driving? Because, the Android phones, and I do this is great, will let you press a button and say, send text to Andrew. Message, yo, 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 what's happening, dude? I'm on my way. And it will then you press the send button. Is that illegal? Yes, it is in California. Anything that you hold, if the highway patrol sees you holding the phone in any way, you're going to get the ticket. So texting by talking, the same thing. And of course, if you think about it, just as dangerous. Maybe you don't have to actually look at the keyboard, so maybe it's a little less, but not a good idea. And it ain't just the kids either. Ken in Sassoon, California. You're next, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Good morning, Leo. How are you?
I'm great. Dale Poco in our chat room says, Leo, it should be illegal just to say yo, yo, yo.
I love it.
Yeah, he's right.
I've got two questions for you, but first off, relative to the lady who called about the spam mail, I agree with her 1,000%. I am so sick and tired of spam email. I get about as much as she does per day. But caveat, just as a quick anecdotal story, several years ago, I was going through delete, and I looked at one of them, and there was some force that acted on me that said, read this one. And an email that I received that I was going to delete as spam was an email that put me back in touch with family that I had lost contact with 45 years ago.
Wouldn't you have been sad?
5 years ago.
Yeah. Do they live in Nigeria, and are they multimillionaires?
No, they live over near you.
Oh, cool. But you're right. If you don't expect a message from it's somebody you don't know, you don't expect it, it's very easy to think, oh, that's spam.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was enough. I took a chance. I opened it up, and there was enough in there. There were enough other names in the address fields that looked familiar. Validated it, and I read it, and lo and behold, it put me back in touch with my family. Okay, my two questions. The first one, very quickly, watching you streaming on TWiT, I don't see the phenomenon, but there's a news broadcast that I watch almost every morning, very early in the morning, and also again later at night, that the station also streams live, and if I don't move the mouse, after about 10 seconds or so, I get this real jerky motion. But if I keep the mouse moving, it continues to be a continuous movement, like a live picture.
Okay, I can take a guess at that. But you're saying it doesn't happen if you watch my stuff? No,
it's only on their live stream. Now, do you want me to tell you who it is?
Yeah, sure.
It's Fox 40 out of Sacramento.
So I actually should take a look at it and just see what their stream is doing. My guess is that it's, when you watch our stream, you're usually using Flash, although we do have some streams you don't need Flash to watch. But I presume if you go to live.twit.tv on a regular computer, you'll be watching with Flash. Does it happen with YouTube?
YouTube, it's so hard to tell because it's so bad anyway. Usually.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's true, isn't it? Let me look. I'm going to look at the live stream of Fox 40.
They live stream their news broadcast from 4:30 to 10 in the morning and from 10 to 11 at night, as far as I know.
Okay, they are using Flash Player on their site. So there's a couple of possibilities. One is that your computer, if it's a relatively recent Intel-based computer, has something called speed step. The Intel processors, when they see you're idle, will actually slow down.
Oh, okay.
And I'm wondering if that, my initial thought was, well, maybe their player is doing something odd and doesn't, in fact, look like it's working, and that the processor's slowing down. It's not. Is it buffering? Do you know what buffering is?
Yeah, I do. And when I first log it, I see it buffering, but it doesn't stop. It doesn't stall and say buffering during the broadcast. It just does this jerky motion. And what you're saying makes sense. Because the thing that I felt odd was that although, when you're, as you well know far more than I do, you're looking at all this video stuff and sound and all this other stuff going on, the mouse activity that the CPU is doing is infinitesimal compared to what else is going on. But I just thought it ironic that it worked better when the mouse was moving than it did when it wasn't.
Yeah, that would explain it. So the moving the mouse is telling the CPU, yeah, no, I'm here. I'm watching.
Well, yeah, no, I know.
Another way to know is if you go to screensaver while you're watching the video. Like if you have a screensaver on and it goes into a screensaver, because the screensaver is waiting for idle.
Yeah, no, I don't have the screensaver turned on.
I would turn it on. Turn it on. It's it comes with Windows. You don't have to install anything, and just see. Set it for 1 minute and see after 1 minute of video if does the screensaver come on. Well, then very definitely that's exactly what's happening. The computer thinks you're idle.
Okay. Is there a way to turn that off?
It's probably in your power settings. I would look at your power settings, and there's also, if you do have speed step, you can say don't throttle.
Don't throttle?
Yeah, don't throttle. What I would do, Ken, is go to your power settings in Windows and just turn it up to maximum performance and see if that helps. He is Mad Magazine's maddest writer for the last years. He's a long time. He's also been, for a long time, a gadget hound. Let me give you an idea of how long he's been a gadget hound. He thought that answering machines were a pretty neat idea. Dick DeBartolo. The Gizwiz.
Right. Yeah. Bill Gaines had the very first answering machine. It was the size of a suitcase, and it was, I think, close to $300.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, it had 2 big cassette tapes in there.
Sure, one for the playback, the message, and one to record the other.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Dick, you always seem to have something interesting.
Well, I have something we're going to talk about that I mentioned to you out at CES, and you already went out and bought one. And I'm talking about... You're so easy.
That's pretty much the story of my life. Yes.
Exactly. The Techion My Power case for the iPhone 4.
I bought 2 because, I'm going to go on a long sea cruise, and sometimes you can't plug in. Most of the time I keep my phone plugged in, but these smartphones, they run through battery pretty quick.
Yeah, and this is very clever because what you can do with this is you can buy separate batteries. Half the case is a battery, and so you can buy a separate battery that forms the rest of the case for just $25.
You need to get a few more. They were out of extra batteries, so I bought 2 cases, which is a little expensive.
Oh, okay.
But,
and you know what? I don't think the new heavy-duty battery is available yet. Right now, the one that they have is 1,200 milliamps, and I believe they're coming out with a
2200.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm waiting for that. But this is great because what it is I can leave the bottom part of the case plugged in, and then walk around with my iPhone. When the iPhone runs out of power, I turn the battery on. It runs again. When that battery runs out of power, I just plug in the plugged-in one and swap them. So I actually get a lot more life out of my iPhone.
Exactly.
Days and days. Yeah.
Now, did you pay $80? I know I think
just 75, something like that.
75. Okay. So I'm sure that's going to drop down a bit as time goes on. But it's Techion, spelled Tekkeon, and it's the Techion My Power. This is for the iPhone 4. They have a totally different system for the older iPhone. So if you have the iPhone 4, you want the My Power.
You're right. When you recommended, I did get it, and I've really been happy with it. It's also a very nice case. And let me tell you, if you have an iPhone, you got to have a case. These things are made out of glass. You're carrying around a glass phone.
And what's neat about it is that is the thinnest case with a battery. You could pass it off as an iPhone case without a battery in it.
Oh, it's true.
The battery is really, it's a great design. Really great design.
The other company that makes these, the Mophie Air cases, are good, but they're much more bulky. Of course, they have more juice, too. But I like the idea of being able to swap the bottoms out here.
Yeah,
that way it's kind of almost unlimited juice as long as you can get back to... You know, you could carry a few... They're small. Carry a few of the little batteries in your pocket, and you're always ready.
Set to go.
Dickie D.
Are you set to go, by the way? Yeah, okay.
I am set to go. I'm all packed. My bags are packed. No, they're not, actually. It's very hard to pack for a trip like this. I'm going to South America, and the part of the problem is that the first stop is Buenos Aires, and then the third stop is Antarctica. So I'll be going from 80 degrees and humid in Buenos Aires to like 20 below and dry as a bone in Antarctica. So what do I do?
I would say bring batteries, bring chargers, bring equipment, bring cameras, and don't forget a clean pair of socks and maybe a pair of underwear.
There, I'm set.
You're set.
I'm set. That's all I need.
You're set.
I'm actually wearing, Jennifer went out, my wife went out and bought me thermal underwear, which I haven't worn since I was a kid back east. And this is the new Smart Wool, right? And I'm wearing it now, and I am sweating bullets, so I think I will be ready.
Well, then you're gonna have trouble getting that through security.
I know. Dick D. Bartolo is at the gizwiz.biz site, gizwiz.biz. You can see all his gadgets there and play the What the Heck Is It contest. A chance for you to win an autographed copy of Mad Magazine from Mad's maddest writer himself. TechGuyLabs.com is the website. If you have a question about anything we've talked about, this would be a great place to go. Coming up in just a little bit, about 33 after the hour, my good friend Scott Wilkinson will stop by, talk about home theater. Scott's going to be here all day next week for all 3 hours of the show. He's filling in for me. Thank you, Scott. That'll be great. So save those home theater questions for Scott Wilkinson, because he is going to have a lot to say about home theater next week. Big tech IPO this week. I don't know. Do you care about stock market stuff like that? There's only been, this is the first tech, they call it initial public offering. It's when a tech company goes public, says we're going to sell stock. LinkedIn had its IPO and decided that they were worth a lot more than they had thought. In fact, maybe because there haven't been a lot of IPOs, not only this year, but in the last few years, stock market investors were very anxious, I think, to get in there. So they raised $175 million, and the stock price went up quickly. It actually, I think, is leveled out a little bit. I guess it's, I mean, you know what, people are jumping on the Facebook thing, right? Nobody can buy Facebook stock yet. Rumors are that you'll be able to buy it next year. So I think that some of this is just people saying, well, I can't get Facebook, so I'll get, what else can I get? LinkedIn, okay, I'll take it. Which doesn't seem like perhaps a very good investing idea, but then that's the stock market in a nutshell. Do you have a new friend on Facebook? Did Roy Castillo stop by? I didn't get it. But apparently somebody hacked Facebook. First, they hacked Mark Zuckerberg's page. I don't know if it was related. And then they did an interesting hack, kind of hard to believe, in which a mysterious person shows up on your friends list and announces that he's off to Danao City. Like it's in your stream. Like, I don't know this person. What? Roy Castillo. He disappeared as quickly as he came, I think because Facebook said, wait a minute, something's wrong. Some people actually deactivated and reactivated their Facebook account to get rid of him. For some, that didn't work. I haven't talked to anybody who's seen Roy Castillo, but I'd be curious if you had him appear. The weird, I mean, his guy's name, girl's picture as his profile picture. It was just hackers, right? The weird thing is you couldn't delete the off to the now city. You couldn't block Roy because he actually wasn't in your friends list, but it was definitely a bug. Something that somebody discovered. Pat on the back to Senator Maria Cantwell of Washington State. She's introduced a bill in the new Congress called the Internet Freedom, Broadband Promotion, and Consumer Protection Act of 2011. Don't they usually have an acronym? Let's see. IFBPACPA. Oh, the IBIFCA. IFBPACPA Act. This IFBPA Act. Actually, it's a good bill, I think, because I don't know if you know, but the Federal Communications Commission has been trying to preserve net neutrality. This is a little controversial. You look what happened in Egypt this week, where they cut off the internet, and you go, well, maybe government intervention in the internet is not such a good idea. But I do think we need somebody to tell the internet service providers to hands off the internet, because there's no competition. If there were competition, we wouldn't need to do it. But how many choices do you have? Not very many. In most cases, one or two. It's a duopoly. And they both, I'm sure will soon be saying things like, well, you can't use Skype. We have our own phone service. Or, well, you can watch Netflix, but it's not going to look as good as the fine HBO we'll sell you for twice as much money. Things like that. So this net neutrality is an issue. Issue on wireless, too. FCC said, okay, we'll enforce it on landlines. Some question about whether they have the power to do so. Courts have been a little funny on that. We'll enforce it on landlines, but anything goes on the wireless because, there's no bandwidth, and those poor wireless people, they're not making enough money. They really need some help or something. Oh, maybe they had something to do with all the lobbying Verizon and AT&T did. I don't know. Well, Maria Cantwell's is this act, this IFBPA, will say that the net neutrality provisions will apply to wireless as well, which they sure as heck ought to. Unless you think it's a good thing that Verizon requires you to watch TV on Vcast instead of Netflix, that kind of stuff. So we'll keep an eye on that. Well, I know I know the end times have come because on Twitter, the top Twitter #1 person on Twitter, what is Lady Gaga, with 7 million followers on Twitter. Believe it or not, the President of the United States is only #6 on Twitter. But that's not the end times. The end times is Kim Kardashian is about to beat him. More people follow Kim Kardashian on Twitter than the president. Now, I think we could come up with a strategy for the president. Maybe if he talked about his butt more, he'd get, that might work. I'm sure that media experts are flocking to the White House to get his rankings up on the Twitter. I don't know which is worse, that in fact Kim Kardashian is beating him, or that we care. It is just Twitter after all, right? Mobile phone market has really taken off. I don't need to tell you this. The mobile phone market has really taken off. Last quarter, 18% growth in cell phone shipments, the largest increase in 4 years. You'd think, at some point, everybody's got one. But that's what's changing. Everybody had one a couple of years ago. And now people are buying new ones more often. How long have you had their current cell phone? See, there's different kinds of people. There's the kinds of people who are sitting in this room with me who have the latest Android iPhone kind of thing, and probably they upgrade every year or two. And then there's, I meet them all the time, people who have the same Nokia candy bar phone they got 8 years ago. Well, it works just fine. It's a phone. I think the increase, when you say this increase of 18% in shipments in 2010, this is in smartphones. This is people who are upgrading more than they had in the past. The biggest jump was Android phones. In fact, some say Android will outpace the iPhone sometime this year. There'll be more Android phones out there than iPhones. And more Android apps than iPhone apps. They're catching up very quickly. I think that's kind of interesting. It's a smartphone world, and I talk about it a lot, so certainly your questions for smartphones be welcome. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. 8888 Ask Leo. That's 1-888-827-5536. 1-888-827-5536. You could call anywhere, toll free, anywhere in the U.S. And if you're calling from outside the U.S., Skype. Skype out will work for free. Did you see Mark Zuckerberg on Saturday Night Live last night? It was pretty funny. They had Jesse Eisenberg, the kid who played Zuckerberg in the movie The Social Network, is the guest host. So he's talking about, being Mark Zuckerberg. And then Andy Samberg comes out dressed like Mark Zuckerberg and says, I'm Mark Zuckerberg. And they do a little thing, and it's cute and it's funny. And then the real Mark Zuckerberg comes out, and you can tell he's the real one because he can't act. The other guys, can act, but he's like wooden. And it's funny because they pretend, Jesse pretends he's a little, embarrassed. Awkward. And Andy Samberg's. That was good. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. Luis Oliveira at the controls. Is Gina in today? Gina Savati on the phone?
It's Jason King.
Jason King. King?
Yes, King.
The King is here? He's in studio? Awesome. The King answering the phones. You just say Your Royal Highness when you call in, and he'll deign to put you on the air. Susan in Agora Hills, California, our first call of the day. Hi, Susan. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for calling. What can I do for you?
I have become totally overwhelmed with the concept of redoing my media room, which it was not very high tech to begin with. And I thought all I'd have to do is decide between an LED and a plasma TV, and all of a sudden and I haven't even made that decision yet, and now I'm being faced with more than just that, but all kinds of new gadgets and boxes that I didn't even know existed. So I was hoping that you could give me some direction with the LED versus plasma, and then, whether I really need to spend $1,500 for a universal remote, wouldn't it be better to be putting it into new receivers and speakers and things like that?
So you obviously have an installer working with you.
Yeah.
Nobody ever says to me, I hear I have to install and do $1,500 universal remote unless they've got an installer breathing down their neck. They love the installers like the universal remotes because one thing they don't want is a call from you saying, "How do I watch Oprah?" Or I can't. I know The Sopranos are on here somewhere. Where? So they give you this and they also, by the way, that's a lot of the value they add is they pre-program that remote. Let's start with the TV.
For what because I don't even know.
$1,500's outrageous for a remote. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
No, don't do that. There's very good remotes that are, the Logitech Harmony one is fantastic. It's not. It's $700. It's half that. But let's talk first about the TV. So the LED. By the way, when you say LED, they're actually LCDs, but they have LED backlights instead of the old fluorescent lights. So actually, I'm sorry, the Harmony one is $250, so even better. Scott Wilkinson's coming up in a little bit. He's going to have a lot to say about this. Yeah, and it's a very good, but anyway, I'll get to that. Let's start with the TV, because this is a question almost everybody asks. LCD versus plasma. And, all other things being equal, plasma is a better picture, but it has some disadvantages. You generally need to darken the room, because plasma is not as bright, and more importantly, the glass on the plasma display will reflect any light. So plasma is for home theater, but you're building a media room. Maybe you don't mind that.
Okay.
LCDs are brighter. They look better if there's ambient light in the room. The LCDs are not as good for action, like fast car chases or football, but they're getting better. And a lot of the new LCDs have some interesting features. Are you looking at 3D?
I don't know that 3D is really there yet to support.
It's by the way, never going to be there. It's a gimmick. However, all the hot new TVs have 3D, so you may get it. You may get it anyway.
The other thing the installer's telling me is that even if I don't use it, it's better to get the one with it because all the other things about the picture are better.
Exactly. Scott's been saying that now, and it's apparently true that as stupid as 3D is, and believe me, it's never going anywhere. The better TVs all have it.
Okay.
So you're going to get it. You can put the glasses in a nice, box somewhere, and you might use it. The one place where it's kind of cool is in sports. But I just read a great Roger Ebert linked to a great article by Walter Murch, the very well-known sound and film editor. Many times won an Oscar. Merch made I think a very strong case for why 3D will never work. It's just it's having to do with the physiology of 3D. And I thought it was quite good, and I kind of frankly agree with him. But anyway, that doesn't matter because you're probably going to get it anyway. As for the remote control, there are lots of great programmable remote controls. The Logitech Harmony 1 is probably all you need on Amazon. $166. Is that right? Can that be possible? Wow. Now he's gonna the installer is gonna give you has a big it's like an iPad. Has a big LCD on it. You know, and you push the buttons and stuff, and that's nice. And he can really program it. It's a selling point. I call it the Ozzy Osbourne remote. Because on that show, he always says, "Sharon, I can't forget the remote." So I don't think you need it, but installers always get you one of those.
Yeah. Okay.
Harmony 1, because the Harmony 1 you can program it online. You plug it into your computer. You tell it what you've got, how it's set up, and it gives you buttons for watching your. I want to watch Showtime tonight. Press a button. It turns on exactly what needs to be turned on. Programs it. I'm leaving for vacation, and my wife said, "Before you leave, would you please give me an instruction manual on how to watch our TV?" And I started writing it out, and it was several pages. If you want to watch a DVD, no, you don't want that. And that's why installers sell you these very expensive programmable remotes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think a Harmony 1 will do all of that and make it easy for you to do what you need to do.
Okay.
Depends how much you want to lean on this guy.
And what about so like in terms of installation, I don't know that I'm going to go with this guy then because, it doesn't sound like it's something he would even install. I mean, you
can do this all yourself. Here's the one thing you want a couple of things you want a person for. Maybe if you really you want to do a great home theater. So a couple of things. One is calibrating the screen itself. Once you get the screen in, guy comes in with some hardware that will get the screen precisely calibrated, and then sound design because every room is different. So you can buy a great 5.1 or 7.2 sound system. But the placement of the speakers and the equalization and all that varies depending on the sound. So, high-end speakers and so forth. there's a speaker system that's so high-end, an engineer comes out from Germany to set it up for you. Yeah, he says, "Well, we have to fix this just right." But that's so, and I don't even know if your installer is, certified to do things like calibrate the TV or set up the audio.
Okay. And what would you, do you have any suggestions as far as models of TVs or models of receivers?
Why don't you hang on the line, because Scott's going to be on in a second. You could ask the man himself. And he's also, by the way, as I said, going to be doing a whole show next week. Hang on the line, because I think Scott can give you some suggestions. He likes the Panasonic plasmas right now. They're very good. If you're going to go plasma, have you decided plasma or LCD? Did I sway you? I still haven't swayed you, eh?
No, I'm still like, I usually turn the light down in the room anyway to see the TV,
right.
But
I'll be honest, I think you could over agonize over this, Susan. If you get decent equipment, you're going to be blown away no matter what.
Right.
So, these differences, some of them are slicing it pretty thin. The people who do these reviews, Scott, don't listen. Plug your ears. The people who do these reviews, the people who, do this for a living, really are talking about how many angels dance on the head of a pin. It's a very, there's a fine difference between some of these things. So you can overspend and go a little crazy for very little value. But hang on, Susan. Let's get Scott on. He can defend himself. Leo Laporte, the tech guy talking with Scott Wilkinson, our home theater guy. And I should say right off the top, Scott will be filling in for me next week. And I can't think of somebody better to do the show because we get half the questions now are home theater questions. It really is the topic.
It seems to be a very popular topic, and I'm so thrilled to be sitting in for you. Thank you so much for allowing me to do that.
Thank you for doing it. And everybody be gentle.
Yes, please.
Be gentle. So you heard before the break, we were talking to Susan in Agora Hills. She's building a media room. I'm jealous. I'm envious. First question was plasma versus LCD, and you and I both agree plasma is the best choice if you can darken the room and you care about action on the screen, sports, that kind of thing.
Yep. I prefer the look of a plasma, generally speaking. In fact, I just finished a review. I haven't written it yet, but I finished the work on a Panasonic S2, a very inexpensive plasma, that looks pretty darn good. I think.
What did you tell Lisa to get? Because she's very happy with that one.
I told her to get a Panasonic. She got the VT25.
That's my business partner. That was about $3,000.
Something like that, but it was a 60-inch. It was a big,
beautiful.
It was a big one,
beautiful,
and gorgeous.
Yeah.
Now that is a 3D TV, and you made the point, and rightly so, that a 3D TV is generally going to give you a better 2D picture. It's going to be on their premium TVs. This 3D feature.
All of the premium TVs now will have 3D.
They all will. They all will. And even if you never use it, you're going to get a better 2D performance on such a TV. So Lisa got the VT25. Which
she got 3D. She's got an 8-year-old kid, and she got the Blu-ray 3D Blu-ray player, and I'm sure he's thrilled. It's kind of gimmicky in my mind. Is there any reason one should consider? When should one consider an LCD? Where is an LCD better?
Well, certainly in a brightly lit environment, as you said. If it's going to be in a family room where there are kids playing in the corner, or grandma's sewing in her seat or whatever, and they need light. LCD is probably going to do better there.
Or you're watching daytime TV, or
yeah, exactly. Or you have a room. You're watching daytime TV, particularly in a room with lots of windows. Or
well, it's kind of depressing to darken the room for days of our lives. You don't want to really do that. You don't want to sit in there with a soap opera in a darkened room. That's just.
I suppose that's true. And a lot of people don't like sitting in a dark room. And I will say that's a very common thing. I myself am happy to sit in a dark room because I have a plasma. And
so, Susan, do you mostly watch movies on your TV? Oh, she wandered off.
She wandered off.
Susan, I'm sorry.
There she is.
Do you mostly watch movies on your TV?
Movies and cable, HBO. And
HBO.
That kind of
so I think that's home theater stuff.
It really is home theater territory. And Susan, you said you often do darken your room when you're watching TV, right?
I'd say 75% of the time.
Will you save money on an LCD? Is it less expensive than a plasma? It used to be.
Actually, LCDs used to be more expensive.
Oh, at the big sizes?
At the big sizes particularly. And that gap has shrunk to almost nothing now. So
really, price is not an issue here.
No, plasmas are a very good value. And, I hate to beat a dead horse here, but I prefer the look of a plasma TV. It doesn't have any of the inherent problems of an LCD. And LCD has tried to solve those problems with, say, motion interpolation. We've talked about that before, frame interpolation.
Now, Scott liked the Harmony One remote. This is the remote I said you should get, Susan, instead of the big Crestron
$1,500 remote. Holy smokes!
There's got to be some profit built into it for that installer. But the Logitech Harmony One list price is $250. They're telling me that on Amazon it's $145 after rebate.
Now, I will say this. The Harmony One is an IR remote, infrared. So if you have your equipment hidden in a cabinet, you're going to either need a repeater, some sort of infrared repeater system that gets the infrared signal to the components, or you need a remote that does what's called RF, or radio frequency.
So basically, and this is why installers sometimes will use those Crestrons and other big expensive remotes, is that they will hide all the gear in a closet or somewhere else, and those use radio waves, Susan, so they can work around corners, whereas this Logitech requires line of sight to the gear.
Now Logitech does make other remotes that have RF capabilities in them, so you might want to check those out.
I'm sorry, Susan?
What if it's behind glass?
That's fine.
Not a problem.
Okay.
So if she has Susan, if you have a cabinet with the gear under the TV and glass, that's fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
You were asking about brands. I would say Panasonic plasmas or Sony or Samsung LCDs. LED and LED LCD.
Absolutely.
An LED backlit TV is much better than a conventionally backlit TV. And if you're going for 3D, if you want 3D, I would get Samsung rather than Sony, because the Sony TVs suffer from what's called crosstalk or ghosting if you tilt your head even a little bit.
What other questions did you have, Susan, as long as we've got our guy here?
Sure. What about this? I've heard that I think it's plasma, that you have the burn in or burn out if I pause the TV a lot.
Used to be a big problem. They've really fixed that.
They've really fixed that up quite a bit. It's really not the problem it used to be. You don't want to keep a static image on a plasma for days on end. That would not be good.
You know where you get in trouble, Susan? And this is where I have to kind of beat this into my kids' heads when they're sitting there playing their Xbox. Do not leave that Xbox on with the game screen because you decided to wander off and have a pizza.
Right.
But that's really you're not. If it's just you know, if you're not going to leave it on the same thing for very long. You know, sometimes you pause the DVD and it's sitting there. But most DVD players now and the screens themselves have burn-in protection. They'll start going into a low screen mode or a
screensaver mode. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and so there isn't. I was looking at a 55-inch. I didn't think that. I thought there was a sizable difference in price between the plasma and the LED, but you don't think so.
No, I don't. LED LCDs might be somewhat more expensive than a comparably sized plasma because LED is a newer technology and so on. But when you go to these LED edge lit, which is what you'll mostly find these days, I think the price differential is minimal, if at all.
I have plasma, Susan. I like plasma.
Okay,
I do too.
Good. Well, probably go that way then. And as far as the receiver and you know, any other, I mean, obviously I need speakers and all that, but would you get the same brand, well, two questions. What receiver for, you know, I don't need top of the line, but I don't want entry either, and what Blu-ray?
Blu-rays, we've seen so little difference in the performance of different Blu-ray players that it almost doesn't matter. I like Panasonic's generally, and I'm not saying that because you should get the same brand as you have TV. If you get a Panasonic,
that doesn't matter at all.
No, it doesn't matter at all. But Panasonic Blu-ray players are generally very good performers, in particular as far as the load times are concerned. You know, how long it takes a disc to come up from the time you put it in the tray. And they're pretty inexpensive. So I would say in those two regards, Panasonic Blu-rays are good. Receivers, you know, again, just about any good receiver. I like Denon. I like Pioneer. I like Sony. Just about anything in the mid-price range is gonna do you just fine. Look at Home Theater Mag or HomeTheater.com for reviews of receivers and also recommendations.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan. I think we just saved you about $8,000.
Thank you.
Take care, Susan. Yeah, I think this is very common, isn't it, Scott? That people will get upsold to more than they really need.
Oh yeah.
And you wouldn't disagree with me when I said that a lot of times when we talk about stuff, whether it's home theater or cell phones or computers, because we're enthusiasts, we care about the subtle differences. Most people, you're going to get a big screen TV. You're going to be so happy. You get a Blu-ray player. You're going to be so happy. You wouldn't notice these differences.
I agree with you entirely.
Yeah.
That's what we have to look at, you know, because that's all we have to differentiate one from another. In many cases, in most cases.
Right. Scott will be here next week, so get your questions ready, and you can also catch him at the Ultimate AV Magazine, ultimateavmag.com, and Home Theater Magazine, hometheatermag.com. Talk to you later. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. With me, Chris Marquardt, the photo guy. He joins us most weeks to talk about digital photography. We're talking. You have a digital photography app as well on the App Store.
Oh yeah, let me say Pocket Chris. I think I have to repeat it like 5 times.
You know, I was talking with Oliver, and it's really, you know, the way Apple does this, the way Apple sets it up, you have to guess which keywords are going to do well at first, maybe do a search first to see. And I'll tell you, both of you are in photography. That is a crowded category.
Well, it is. But we are both kind of in our niche. It's not like the usual photography app where you just where you get a filter to put on pictures. Mine is about teaching photography. The Boeing's app is about doing the panoramics, and it's a very different field there. So I think we both have a bit of visibility in our own fields there.
I wonder, Oliver, if you would use that name. What was it? Look, you got to see this. If you would have used that name now knowing what you know.
Why not?
Because somebody's got to search for "you've got to see this."
Yeah, do it on Google. I mean, you know.
So a unique name, especially if it's a Googleable unique name, that would be good.
Yeah.
So if you name Pocket Chris, if I search for Pocket Chris, that's the only one, right?
Yes, but I also added photography, so the full name is like Pocket Chris Advanced Photography. So you will always find it when you search for photography as well.
But you are also the #1 Google search. for Pocket Chris. And you did, and this is smart, you created a website called pocketchris.com.
Absolutely. You have to have that.
Not merely a website, but a website with the name of the app.
That helps a lot.
I bet it does.
It's very basic SEO.
Yeah. Well, basic sometimes is the best way to go. It works.
Oh,
yeah. So let's talk about photography, because you know what I found out? I'm going to Antarctica. In a couple of weeks, I'll be in Antarctica with my Canon 5D Mark II, the most expensive camera I could imagine, with a plethora of lenses. And then I'm reading Michael Reichman's Luminous Landscape blog, in which he and 4 or 5 other photographers went to Antarctica in the summer. This is summertime in Antarctica, with their 5D Mark IIs, and 4 out of the 5 died.
Okay, well,
not the people, the camera.
Actually, yeah. I remember the coverage of that trip, and I think they all had the battery grip on the camera.
Ah.
And I think that's what I read from the reports, is that that humidity water snuck in between the battery grip and the camera, which shouldn't happen, but which did happen.
There were some 1Ds that didn't die. That's, of course, much more expensive camera. But
oh yeah, and Nikon did much better.
And the Nikons were much more.
Yeah, they were much more.
But I'm worried now. I mean, what do I do? Should I have a special super duper camera for this trip?
Do you have the battery grip?
No.
No, I own the 5D Mark II. Before I took it to the Everest
to
trek
Everest
last year, I actually took it out in the rain without protection and tested it. Really hardcore. I tested it. I had it in the rain for an hour, and it just did its job. So then I knew nothing would happen.
And you didn't have problems. I mean, I can't imagine Antarctica will be any colder than base camp was.
No, it's going to be all right. You're going to be just fine. Have an extra battery with you. Make sure you have like a battery inside your jacket. So
now here's a question. Is condensation an issue? You don't want to keep the camera in the jacket warm and then take it out, right?
No. You want to keep the camera at the temperature where you shoot. Right. And the problem happens when you go inside with a cold camera, because the camera is cold, and then the warm water that has more humidity, it will condensate on the camera.
The good news is Antarctica is like bone dry.
Yeah, so you shouldn't really have an issue. And even if there's a bit of condensation on the camera, so what? It's not going to hurt the camera, especially not if I've
no, I just don't want it to die.
No, it won't die.
Okay. No battery
unless you
grip
drop
for me.
it off the ship, okay?
Yeah, that could be bad. Because I can't wait to get back some pictures, and I'm going to take all your snow picture advice to heart.
I'm so looking forward to your pictures. Absolutely.
So, what did you want to talk about this week? Now that you've helped me, now that you've helped me, what can we do for you?
I want to talk a bit about aspect ratio, because people nowadays, they have their cameras and they just get the pictures. They get like a DSLR today is going to have a 3:2 aspect ratio.
You know, I'm glad you're bringing this, because I just bought for the trip a Panasonic Lumix LX5, which has an aspect ratio switch. You can shoot wide 16:9, you can shoot square 1:1, or you can shoot the standard 3:2, and they even have a 4:3. So there's 4 different aspect ratios on that camera.
And that is a bit confusing, especially, and I bet 90% of the users will never take that out of its default, which is 3:2, I think.
I don't know what the default is. You switch it, so it's whatever you left it on.
so at the TV nowadays is more 16:9. If you go into analog photography, especially like medium format photography, you end up with a square aspect ratio, 1:1.
I figured if I'm doing a landscape, I'll do the wide aspect, right?
And there are some, different aspect ratios lead to different style of composition. If you, for example, use a wider format, yes, for panoramics or panorama type landscape shots, that really is a good format. But this kind of picture also ends up being a bit more dynamic usually. When the format gets closer to the square, then that tends to produce more static pictures. So if you have something that is very calm, very static, something that doesn't move, try a square format. And even if you crop it afterwards, it's gonna be just fine. But I tend to do these things in camera if the camera allows it. I have an LX3, which is the older model.
Right.
And that also allows that. And the 1:1, the square aspect ratio, is actually very good for things that...
Like an iceberg sitting there. An iceberg sitting there. That'd be a good square picture.
And if you got to play with placement of your subject as well, like a 2:3 aspect ratio, that leads itself a lot to the rule of thirds kind of composition. With a square aspect ratio, not so much.
Center things. Do you center it?
It's more centered. Actually tends to be more centered. And I find myself doing that inadvertently, not really thinking about where I want to place things. Just I go by my guts, and that's what happens a lot when I shoot in a square format.
Really, the truth is most people don't have these silly switches, but also, and somebody in the chat room said this, I don't care about that because I always crop my picture anyway.
Well, so do you do that, Leo?
Yeah, what I do is get back in Lightroom, look at the picture, and I frequently,
do you do unusual crops? That's the question. Or
I don't.
Do you
I
leave
just
the default aspect ratio in there.
No. Well, sometimes there's a little lock, a padlock that says keep the aspect ratio, which means don't when you resize it, keep it the same 4:3, or 3:2, I should say, or you can unlock it. And sometimes I'll have to unlock it because I want. But when I'm cropping, so what you're saying is pay attention to the content. You might want to use
the content and the crop can really go hand in hand. And this little padlock thing is usually the first one I click open.
So you do? You don't like to do it with the standard aspect ratio?
Well, it really depends. But sometimes a picture really leads itself to a very unusual crop. And I've had crops that are very thin in a horizontal fashion or very vertical. And try putting several of those like very vertical crops together on one page in a photo book, for example. You'll be surprised how those pictures can all of a sudden really complement each other.
There's a great iPhone app called Diptyque that lets you do that. It's really fun. So you take 3 or 4 pictures and then you arrange them in this kind of photo book style for one single picture.
And that kind of forces you into cropping pictures. If you want to do like 3 verticals next to each other in a square format together, Diptyque really leads itself to that. You can learn to crop your own pictures.
I'm bringing all this fancy camera gear, and you know what? I bet my best pictures are on the iPhone with all this software that you can do all these neat things with.
My piece of advice, take the 24-105 lens, leave the others at home, maybe take a 50mm. Don't take too much stuff with you.
Oh,
you won't
right.
be switching lenses that much.
Chris Marquardt is at chrismarquardt.com. He's the host of the Tips from the Top Floor podcast. And go to discoverthetopfloor.com because he's got some great workshops coming up. Chris, we'll see you next time. Thanks.
See you soon.
We were talking earlier about Macworld Expo, which just happened in San Francisco this past week, just ended yesterday. It ain't no CES. Let's put it that way. It's gotten a lot smaller. I can remember in years past when Macworld Expo would tie up traffic in San Francisco for days. You wouldn't be able to go anywhere near the convention center. It's not that big anymore, unfortunately. And it's not really much about the Mac anymore. Oliver Breidenbach is with me. He's a Mac developer at Boinx.com, Boinx.com. They do a lot of different really cool software. You didn't even have a booth this year.
No, we didn't. No.
Well, HP was the biggest company with a booth. There's no Apple at Macworld anymore. Hasn't been for the last couple of Macworld Expos. Mostly, it seems like an accessory show at this point. iPad and iPod accessories.
Yeah, lots of that stuff. And
iPhones.
Also really crazy stuff, right? Like the guys with the ultrasound therapy things.
There's always been, I don't know why, but maybe it's Mac, maybe it's because it's San Francisco, maybe it's because it's Mac users, but there's always been kind of some strange side booths where you get weird massage chairs and things like that.
Yeah, but actually I missed the people who gave you actual massage, right?
Now that would have been nice, yeah. I guess they weren't there either, huh? Anyway, it's no news really comes out of Macworld Expo anymore now that Apple doesn't make big announcements there. In fact, Apple last year announced the iPad a couple of weeks after Macworld Expo. Everybody at Macworld Expo last year was wondering what the iPad was going to bring with it, what it would herald, what it would be like. Maybe they announced it the week before. Maybe?
Yeah. They had like a session on the iPad where they had fake iPads.
They had cardboard iPads. Yes. So it's a fascinating scene. If you're a Mac person, the conference schedule is much better. There's lots of great conferences, professional training, that kind of thing. But the expo itself isn't really a huge thing, and I have nothing to report.
No, there was some nice little gems, like the guys with the universal remote for your iPhone.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
You were talking about the universal remote.
Yeah.
just the other hour.
So it's gems. You have to kind of look around the little small booths, things like that.
Yeah.
So that's what you like. What was the name of that? Do you remember?
No, it was on the Dr. Bot booth, but
okay. So it's an iPhone app, or did it require? Must have had some hardware in it as well.
Yeah, it's a little dongle thing that you attach to the iPhone, and then an app to it. Yes, something like that.
Something like this. Yeah, I have this. This doesn't work that well. This is it's infrared remote that plugs into the audio port of the iPhone. But they don't know. It knows about very little.
Theirs was plugging into the connector.
Yeah,
and that gives you much more much more reliability.
8888. Ask Leo's the number. Let's get back to the phones. In other words, nothing to see here. Move along. Victor on the line from Sherman Oaks, California. Hey, Victor.
Hi, Leo. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Wonderful. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Okay. Welcome.
I am excited that the iPhone is coming to Verizon, and it's rumored that the AT&T is going to get the iPhone 5 June, July. Maybe you'd know maybe better than
No, I know nothing. In fact, no one knows anything, and anybody who says they know something is making it up. Apple is sealed tighter than a drum. Nobody gets any information out of Apple unless something happens unusual, as happened last year when an engineer left an iPhone 4 on a bar stool. We don't know what the iPhone 5 will be. We don't know whether Verizon will get it at the same time as AT&T. We don't know if I think it's conceivable that other carriers like Sprint and T-Mobile may get an iPhone at the same time, but we don't know. Anything I say would be pure speculation. You want to hear my speculation?
Sure. I hate to buy my iPhone 4 on February 10th, and then June 10th, 5 comes out. I'd be really disappointed.
Just understand that what I'm saying here is, not based on any information because Apple doesn't say. Sure. But I could tell you, it's pretty likely that there'll be an iPhone announced and shipping in June because it has been for the last 3 years or 4 years. Every June, there's a new iPhone. The first iPhone came out in June 2007. The iPhone 3 came out in June 2008, the 3G, then the 3GS, then the iPhone 4, June 2010. So I would say June 2011, yeah, there's probably a new phone. Will Verizon have it? Who knows? I would be very angry if I were Verizon and I didn't get it. So I would guess that the iPhone 5 will come out everywhere that the iPhone 4 is, which is going to upset some Verizon customers who signed up for a 2-year deal for a 4 3 months before or 4 months before a new one came out. But that's, that's business. I don't think the iPhone 5, if that's what they call it, they may not. They may call it the 4S. They may call it, who knows what they're going to call it. But I don't think the next iPhone will have significant differences from the current iPhone. Most likely, it'll be a dual processor. It'll be a faster phone. That's probably going to be the biggest difference.
Got it.
Yeah.
When do you think the iPad might have a camera?
iPad will almost certainly have a camera. That will probably be out in April. Apple likes these yearly release dates. It'll probably have a back camera and a front-facing camera. Some say improved, maybe even Retina display. That would add so much to the price of the iPad. I don't think that's likely. They may improve the resolution, but not that much. Because remember, the price is very important for Apple on the iPad. They've got to have a $500 iPad. They can't eliminate that. They have to have that. Biggest question for Verizon customers, if you ask me, is will the next iPhone on Verizon support the Verizon 4G network? And my guess is that it will not. Apple's very slow. Remember, when Apple came out with the iPhone, it wasn't 3G. It was Edge only. It took them a year to get to 3G on the original iPhone. So even though Verizon's making a lot of hay talking about their 4G network, and they say 245 cities by the end of 2011, I will be part of the problem is, of course, that AT&T's 4G is a little bit behind that. I just don't see an LTE. That's what the Verizon 4G technology is called, the faster data network. I just don't see a 4G iPhone this year. But who knows?
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, in other words, would you be disappointed if you bought an iPhone 4 now? Probably not. The thing that maybe, you know, if you really want speed, I think I would hold off. I bet a lot of developers like you, Oliver, are saying, gee, we'd really like to get a crack at an A5, a dual-core, you know, A9-based processor, and that would be pretty exciting. But I don't, you know, the resolution of the iPhone screen there can't go up any higher. It's as high as you can get, pretty much. Camera's great. I don't know what you'd do to fix that. I have heard little rumors going around that there may be some significant changes in the operating system, that notifications might be fixed, perhaps. There's something that really the iPhone does poorly. The foldering system might be improved. I have heard the multitasking might be improved. I have heard rumors that the next generation iPhone software might be where you see most of the improvement. And certainly if you get a faster processor in there, you could do a lot more.
That will help, yeah.
Yeah, that's got to happen, right? Oliver says, please.
Yes, please, please.
Anybody who makes software like Boinks does, that really is CPU intensive, you want to see more hardware. You want to see more processor speed.
Yeah, always.
More RAM.
You can't have enough power.
There's not a lot of RAM right now in the iPhone.
No, yeah. Well,
it's what, 256?
Yeah, it's. I don't actually know exactly, but
I can't remember if it's 256 megabytes or 512, but it's low.
It's not that much.
Yeah,
and if you want to do photos, that is especially a problem. Right?
More RAM. The problem with more RAM is these days that's not something consumers know or care about. It's one of the reasons neither of us knows how much RAM's in the iPhone. It's not something people talk about anymore. And again, it's all speculation. Apple could throw us for a loop. We won't know till they announce it, and I suspect they won't announce it till May, or maybe even June. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Let's see here. John in Austin, Texas. Hey, John. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo, long-time watcher, listener, back to the Ziff Davis days. How you doing?
My. Well, it's great to talk to you. Thanks for calling.
Yeah. Hey, listen, my deal is I've got an LG Vortex that I've recently got here, and I hate all the LG apps on here, all the bloatware.
Yeah.
I want to root it, but I'm a little afraid to. I can't afford to brick my phone.
You won't brick it. You won't brick it. No, as long as you use a reliable rooting source. So Android is an open source operating system, and as a result, how it works is very well known because anybody who's interested can look at it. So it was considerably easier. It is considerably easier to give you root access on an Android phone than it is, say, to jailbreak an iPhone. It takes a lot of clever hacking to jailbreak an iPhone. Rooting an Android phone, which is essentially the same thing. What rooting does is it gives you full access to the phone's features. And it means you have administrative rights to the phone. It's your phone. You ought to have administrative rights to it, of course. Nothing wrong with that. And rooting it is not a difficult thing to do. In fact, in some cases, it's a simple command. Let me ask the chat room if they have a is it XDA developers? Would you recommend that for rooting the Vortex? I'm not sure. You can always Google rooting the Vortex, but I would be careful. This is the real risk, is that there are bad guys, malicious people out there who would say, yeah, I can root it for you. And when they won't in reality be doing that, they'll be doing something else. XDA-developers.com. They're the kind of keepers of the rooting flame for Android, and they do, in fact, have a procedure for doing it on the Vortex. So just search for XDA Developers Vortex root, and you'll find it. And that's safe.
So is there a way to back it up pretty well?
Well, in a sense, you're always backed up with Android. Because Android's syncing with all your Google stuff, so everything's in the cloud. Your apps, it remembers. So that's one of the nicest features about an Android phone. You get a new Android phone, you log in, it actually says, "Oh, let me copy all your apps," and it downloads the apps for you. Wouldn't be a bad idea to go to app or download an app called AppBrain. That is a really very cool third-party app that keeps track of your apps. It's got some social elements. You can share your apps with other people. For instance, you can see what apps I use. It's a great way to find out about great apps on the Android platform. And it will keep track of all the apps you have on your different Android phones. And when you get a new phone, you can just copy them all over automatically.
Okay.
There is a guide on Android forums. In fact, let's put that link in the show notes, James. It's in the chat room right now. It's the definitive, and this is a safe place, too, to get information in the Android forums, the definitive guide to rooting the LG Vortex. So if you go to Android forums, and search for LG Vortex, or click the link in our website, techguylabs.com. All sorts of stuff in there. And yes, it's safe. Some, there were the Motorola Droid X, there was some talk that Motorola put something in there that if you tried to root it, it would brick it. I think they've even gotten around that. That's a pretty nasty thing for somebody to do. Motorola should be ashamed of themselves for doing it. But really, it's your phone. Come on. You're telling me Verizon, you're telling me AT&T, you're telling me T-Mobile, you're telling me Motorola, Samsung, HTC, that I own this piece of hardware, which I'm spending, by the way, an exorbitant amount of money for, that I shouldn't have administrative access? What if you bought a computer and they said, oh, yeah, you could be a limited user, but you can't have full access? That wouldn't be cool. That wouldn't be okay. That phone, that Vortex, yeah, maybe it only cost you $200 when you signed up. But then it's another $100 a month for 2 years. That's a $2,600 computer, and you don't have administrative access? Forget that. Oh, no, you didn't. All right. So you want to know kind of the same thing is, should you get a Verizon iPhone now or wait?
No, well, a little different.
Okay.
I'm wondering to reserve it now or instead get the HTC Android that's going to be on 4G in April on Verizon.
Yes. I do like that new HTC phone that they announced at CES. What was it called? Like the robot?
It's the Thunderbolt.
Thunderbolt.
Yeah.
It's big screen. It's beautiful. I'm an Android fan. In fact, to be honest with you, Android's gotten so far ahead of Apple in some regards that when I look at an iPhone, I feel like, boy, that's old technology. You just look at this. Yeah, you look at the screen and like, what can you do with an iPhone? Well, it's just all the icons in a grid. That's all you can do. You look at an Android phone, you have the capability of putting widgets on there. I can see what the weather is. I can see what, but all you got on the iPhone is a grid. Oh, now they got folders. Ooh. The camera's really good, although I have to say the camera on my Nexus S is just about as good. I think the only big difference really on the iPhone these days is the App Store. And there are still, especially in photography, a range and array of quality apps that you just don't have yet on Android. How long will that be? Oliver, you going to do Android apps ever?
I wouldn't say never.
You have to think about it, don't you? Because it's such a big market.
Yeah, but it's quite different from the development standpoint. So
right. You get new programmers.
Yeah.
Because you're writing in Java now.
Yeah, well.
Oliver does...
to do that.
Oliver is CEO of a company called Boinks that does a couple of different iOS apps. I think Android's really caught up in many ways and suppressed in many other ways, the voice dictation and so forth. So, but to answer your question, Jim? I don't know. It's a very personal decision. Your cell phone is as personal as a computer gets, isn't it? You're going to be holding it to your head, right there up next to your ear. You're practically snuggling it every day. And so there are plenty of people who are listening to me right now are saying, Leo, no question, it's an iPhone, no question. I think probably Oliver's one of those people. And then there are other people who will say, no question, Leo, no question, it's obviously Android.
But the 4G is a big improvement, right?
Yeah, I don't know if yes, and you won't get 4G on the current iPhone on Verizon, and I don't think you'll get it on the next one. So if that's, really that's what it comes down to. What are you going to do with it? What's the most important thing for you? If, for instance, 4G is important, then I'd absolutely get the Thunderbolt. If you don't like the Apple keyboard, which I don't, the Android allows, there's 4 or 5 different keyboard styles and techniques that you can use that are great because it's open. Anybody can develop for it. You don't have to Apple will not approve third-party keyboards. But you don't have to ask approval to put it on Android. Anybody can. So I think there's a lot of good stuff about Android. If 4G is important to you, I would not hesitate. I haven't played with the Thunderbolt. I mean, I played with it at CES, but I haven't used it in real-world circumstances. It looks a lot like these other 4.3-inch Android phones. I think it looks very, very sweet. And it does have a dual-core processor, which is another nice thing that the iPhone 4 does not. Mm-hmm. So if you're inclined towards Android, go for it, Jim.
All right, thanks for that.
Thanks for the call. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Have a great Geek Week. Don't forget Scott Wilkinson next week talking home theater.
And keep calling.